What is going on, everybody? It is Dylan with DFS, bringing you a brand new video. Today's video going over the Thursday 3-game slate on DraftKings. Um, we have some really good prices on the slate. Makes it really good. DraftKings usually does this to get more people to play, just because there's a game basically all day. Slight time in between games, but they get pretty damn close. So you're watching football all day, playing DraftKings. So that's the idea of it. And yeah, so Jared Goff at home against Chicago. Yeah, Detroit's been a monster of a team, whether it's in the air or on the ground. The Bears, without Jaquan Brisker, have been a different defense in the pass game. He obviously is a huge boost to this team. You're kind of seeing the pass game being slightly worse. Now you still have good amount of pieces there, but with how good Detroit's been and at home, where they have 2 games over 50 points at home, and now you get another dome game for Jared Goff, a high total, kind of like the Bears offense in a slight battle. So Jared Goff at a 6,500 price tag is in a really good spot. Now the downs with this is they get a big lead. They use the run game. Obviously, David Montgomery versus his former team. They do what they usually do, use their running backs and Gibbs and Montgomery. And Jared Goff, gets 1 passing touchdown, 200 passing yards, and really doesn't pay off. But he is in a really good spot, a big favorite in a big total. I do like Jordan Love as well at home against Miami. Just used to the weather. The matchup is good. Miami missing Fuller yet again. 2 starting linebackers out too, so the middle of the field, which boosts Green Bay's slot, tight end, and run game. Having pieces like that missing. So I do like Jordan Love as a huge, not a huge favorite, but a favorite at home on a good size total as well. I believe both those games are above 47 for the total. Next on the list is Caleb Williams at 5,300 on the road against Detroit. His price tag is just very intriguing. He's been a guy that can get you some fantasy points, and that's what he does, right? Honestly, the beginning of the game against Minnesota didn't look the greatest, but the way it ended with him getting 29 DraftKings points, he had a phenomenal game. You look at the 2 division games he's had, right? Against Green Bay, he throws 74%. Doesn't get any passing touchdowns, but rushes for 70 yards, throws for 230. Against Minnesota, rushes for 33, throws for 340 and 2 touchdowns. So he's played well against division opponents so far. Both some tough losses. Honestly, they should have won both, but I think if you look at the difference in just the 2-game sample size we've gotten with a different offensive coordinator, it's a boosted Williams. So in its 2 games, he's paying off at the 5,300 price tag, 54 and 51, and he's definitely paid off now at 53 on the road. Even if they're down a lot, there's still the garbage time or the second half. But I will mention Detroit is missing Carlton Davis, who's been their best corner so far this season. Now they are getting Arnold back, but missing someone like Davis is a huge blow. So it's a plus for Caleb Williams. Other than that, Drew Lock is interesting to me because Dallas has a lot of injuries offensively and defensively. And this is going off of DeVito not playing it. We got reports that DeVito's more likely not playing, and it will be Drew Lock. Now, I did see a beat writer say something about Tim Boyle, but I doubt it. So it looks like we're getting Drew Lock at 4,500. So I kind of like him as a sneakier play. It's just, a 37 division game. Both teams kind of really bad this season. But I do think for a 4,500 price tag, there is a scenario where Drew Lock definitely pays off. Running back, you get Jacobs at 7K, Gibbs at 75, and HN at 77. We've known HN to see a boost with Tua in the receiving game. Green Bay just for years been a bad team against the run, but with cold weather, on the road, dogs. Do you want to go HN for his price tag versus Gibbs, who's $200 cheaper at home in a dome with a slightly better matchup? And that's where I'm kind of leaning at, right? A healthier game script for running back for $200 cheaper. I still like HN. I think HN's a good play, but I think Gibbs for $200 cheaper is better. Josh Jacobs, for the ownership, he's probably going to get. He does seem like a sneaky play against Miami. I mentioned the 2 linebackers out for Miami. Green Bay has a very good, solid offensive line. And you look at the volume that Josh Jacobs gets. And when he gets touchdowns, I mean, he really, really pays off. When he doesn't, I mean, you're seeing the fantasy points, but look at games where he has touchdowns, and for the most part, he's paying off. Obviously, 3 last week against San Francisco. Do I expect that again? No. Can I see a 2 touchdown performance out of him? Yes, I think that's very, very doable against Miami. But the volume has just been there, right? 26 against San Francisco, 23 against the Bears in that one. Detroit was smaller, but Jacksonville 27. So he's getting a lot of opportunities, and he should continue to get opportunities in a colder game where if the wind does become more of a factor than it should, Josh Jacobs will get, maybe some check down targets, but expect him to get a lot of carries in that one. David Montgomery should be good to go. I believe he was a full participant in practice on Wednesday, so David Montgomery, I expect him to play. I think he's a good play. I do think there are better scenarios. Now, if you want to capture all of Detroit's running back points and go Montgomery Gibbs, I don't have a problem with that on this slate, right? If they pop off for 30 plus points, you're in a really good spot, right? So I don't think that's a bad scenario. Instead of trying to decide between which one you go both, no problem with that. I do like Tyrone Tracy here at 5,800 going against Dallas. I've mentioned the injuries for Dallas. And Tyrone Tracy, although he did fumble last week, and we've seen it the last 2 weeks now, I still think he is the better back in New York. Now with Drew Lock being there, the possibilities of checkdowns and more consistent carries versus, they faced Tampa Bay last week with DeVito. Tampa Bay is a better team than Dallas. Just Dallas is unhealthy. So I will mention it is a better game script versus a defense that has just got shredded by the run all year. Not just running back, but quarterback as well. So I like Tyrone Tracy in this one at 5,800. And then Rico Dowdle at 5,500, same thing. Giants have been, versus running back, one of the worst teams versus the running back per carry. And at his price point, the way the game is, a low total game, you expect running backs to get a lot of volume. So Rico Dowdle also in play at 5,500. So kind of just on this one, avoiding DeAndre Swift, probably avoiding David Montgomery, probably avoiding Devon Achane. Now, if I'm doing 150s, which I do, I'm going to get exposure to him, but probably less than the field. On wide receiver, Amon-Ra, yet again, just like David Montgomery, was a full participant in practice, so he should be good to go. It is a good matchup versus, Kyler Gordon, Tyreek Stevenson. Do I think you need to go there? I don't, right? Because you're more than likely playing a Detroit running back in your lines unless you're fading them. If you're fading them, then, you're going Amon-Ra, Jameson Williams, Laporta. Do you go Amon-Ra and, Gibbs or Montgomery and Goff? I mean, we've seen it done and win. Do you do it on a slate like this, though, where you have CeeDee Lamb, who's at a very low price, Malik Neighbors fairly priced, and Tyreek Hill at probably an all-time low? So it's a good game script for him. His numbers at home this season, I mean, pretty damn good. 69 yards per game, 4 touchdowns, so averaging 20.3 DK points versus 18.5. So yeah, Amon-Ra at home, he's doable, but I would rather pay down for CeeDee Lamb, Malik Neighbors in their matchups, right? CeeDee Lamb against the Giants, just kind of what we expected when Dak was out. CeeDee Lamb's just going to get volume. He's going to get volume. Is it going to be as good as volume when Dak was there? Pretty damn close so far. Now, obviously, we're not going to see this. We're not going to see, this type of game where he scores 42 DraftKings points. but at a price point of 7.3 to where we've seen him get 2 games with 12 targets, 1 game 93 yards, 1 game with 67. His price is very adjusted for what he's done this season. Thankfully, the opportunities of him getting 12 targets against a team like the Giants, to where their secondary has been, to me, bad. I think this is a game where CeeDee Lamb could see easy 20 plus DraftKings points and pays off for you. So I do like CeeDee Lamb. I do like Malik Neighbors on the other side of that as well. I mentioned Dallas dealing with a lot of injuries defensively, so I like Malik Neighbors with Drew Lock. I think Drew Lock is going to feed his wide receivers, and with Malik Neighbors calling out his coaches, I could easily see Malik Neighbors being targeted early and often, so I like him there. Now, if you do want to get exposure to a pass catcher for Detroit, and you don't want to go Laporta for his price point, Jameson Williams at 6,100, is going to see, Jalen Johnson quite a bit, but he's also going to see Tyreek Stevenson and Kyler Gordon, who give up a majority of the Bears' receiving yards. So at 6,100, I'm fine with that. Now, Jaden Reed, I love Jaden Reed's price. With someone like Dobbs being out, I like his opportunities as well. So at 5,700, Jaden Reed continues to drop in price. But, I mean, you look at the performances he's had lately compared to where he was in the beginning of the season, it's adjusted appropriately. So I think this is a good bounce back game for him. And his price point, which continues to go down, yes, at 5,700, he's got a really good matchup against Miami. So now for the Bears receivers, I honestly think you could go any of them here. I do prefer Keenan Allen. If you look at Keenan Allen through the 2 games of a new offensive coordinator, he's gotten 23 targets. Didn't see that with Waldron at all. It seems like they're trying to get him the right opportunities, and his price is just pretty balanced, right? So 23 targets in the last 2 games. Obviously, last week with 15 targets is probably not doable again, but to see somewhere around 8 to 9 targets is kind of where I have him at. DJ Moore, you see him as well, 14 targets, but he's seen 168 receiving yards in those games. Gotten a couple rushing attempts as well. But I think, honestly, you could go any of them. You could go DJ Moore. You can go Keenan Allen. You can even go Rome Odunze, who's seen 20 targets in his last 2 games. So Cole Kmet's kind of taking the back seat as of right now. With the Bears in certain situations, they're going to have to make big plays, especially against Detroit. I think all 3 of those guys are in play for me at their price points. Now, anybody else down here, like Dontavian Wicks, makes sense at 4,200, kind of getting slated in. You see his numbers when he gets opportunities, and he's gotten some good numbers. Wandell at 4,700. His matchup is also good. So I think if you're looking for value at wide receiver, kind of looking at Wandell below 5K. Dontavian Wicks at 4,200. Tim Patrick with Khalif Raymond out at 3,500. Like, those are the kind of values that I'm looking at wide receiver. No, tight end, 4,300 is the most expensive tight end. So you're getting a lot of value in this slate because of that, right? Like, usually there's a top tight end to where you go, hey, do you go, Travis Kelce, or do you go, Tucker Kraft, right? So I do like Jonnu Smith at his price point. He's just been a target machine for Miami this season. His last 2 games, he's just gone off, right? Like, the fantasy points have been crazy. 3 touchdowns in 2 games, right? He's got 3 out of his 4 in the last 2. 19 targets in those 2 games. Pulls another solid matchup against Green Bay. I think you can go Jonnu. I think you can go Laporta at his price point of 4,100. Bears just got torched by TJ Hawkinson last week. Laporta, 12 targets in his last 2 games, so that's something to kind of look at for there. Versus, kind of earlier in the season, we didn't see it at all until week 8 when he got 6 targets in that one. So, good game script for Laporta at his price point. I'm fine with playing that. Tucker Kraft in a really good spot. I mentioned Miami having 2 linebackers out, so that's a plus for me. They've kind of gotten beat by tight ends here and there, right? I think when the game script allowed tight ends to be targeted against Miami, they've had some good games. I think this is one of them where Tucker Kraft has the opportunity to get, 7, 8 targets, for, hopefully 5 or 6 receptions and getting you, 70, 80 yards and hopefully a touchdown at his price point, right? Like at 3,700, you're shooting for somewhere around 11 or 12 points. That is what you're shooting for. If he gets better, that's amazing. And you're hoping he doesn't get worse. So I will mention the values kind of looking at it is the Dallas tight ends is very tricky. Shoemaker at 3,400 is there. I'll mention Theo Johnson. Kind of see it last week. 6 targets with DeVito. Kind of similar type of situation. Another, backup quarterback in Drew Lock. But I mean, he's gotten consistent volume lately, and his price really hasn't been adjusted for it. Like at 2,900, a guy that's gotten 6.9, 7.7, 14.1, 6.5. I think it's worth taking a shot on Theo Johnson at 2,900. So it's kind of it for tight end. And then at defense, the Lions make sense against the Bears. I will mention Green Bay makes sense against Miami. The Giants make sense against Dallas, right? They get fantasy points through sacks. They're not going to get it through, pretty much anything else. But if they get sacks, which they haven't done lately against one really bad team in Carolina who's played better, but against Washington, Carolina, and Tampa Bay, they have 1 sack as a team. Now they face the Dallas team whose offensive line is notorious for being good, but they are without Zach Martin, so maybe the opportunities are there with Cooper Rush and a Rico Dowdle who's not very efficient running the ball, in my opinion. So Giants are there and Bears. So I'm kind of not looking at Miami, and kind of looking at Dallas is like my 2, right? I want to go Lions, Green Bay, New York, Chicago. Those are kind of my defenses I like. So, yeah, thank you guys for tuning into this video. My main slate videos will go out later this week. If you guys are interested in joining for my player pools for this, as well as my bets and props in our FanDuel side of our DFS, all that is available on our website. So check that out if you guys want to subscribe to it and get those. It's a very cheap subscription package. So thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a good Thanksgiving if you guys celebrate it. If you're by yourself and alone, I hope you find the best situation you can, which is, if you're by yourself, just watch some football, have a good time, don't stress about it, enjoy the days off if you're getting the days off. If you unfortunately have to work, I hope it's as good as it can be. I know working on Thanksgiving and Christmas time is stressful, so if you guys are working, I do hope it's as best as it can be, and I will see you guys in the next one.